Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this episode of Social Changers. This is our weekly video podcast highlighting social workers and change agents in the field. I'm Catherine Felton Page. I'm the founder and director of Social Change Warriors, and I have a very special guest panel tonight joining me for our topic, 38,000 veterans, the state of homelessness currently for veterans in America. Before I introduce you to the panel, I just wanted to take a moment, in case this is your first time joining us, your first time finding us on our YouTube channel, to tell you a little bit about us. We are ACTT. Actually, I gotta go back. Sorry about that. ACTT, Agents of Change Training Team, and we are the Social Change Warriors. We wear two hats. We're a training team, and we're also working in communities as social change warriors to affect social change and social good. So our team members have masters in social work. They are certified social work associates, many of them, and some of our team has licensure in social work. So our purpose is to work for sharing evidence-based research that has facts and human interest stories that we also find out in the world and bring those to you. So our research, our facts, our human interest stories pertain to social change, social equity challenges, and social justice problems in our nation. So that's what we're all about. We've been around for about a year, and we're close to going to nonprofit status soon. We'll be letting you all know that on our website. Our core principles are knowledge, power, action, change. And we believe that knowledge is power and power leads to action, and action affects change and change affects our lives. So we have our quote from Arnold Glasgow here: an idea not coupled with action will never get any bigger than the brain cell it occupied. You can think about things all day long, but if you don't take action, nothing's going to happen. So that's what we're all about at Social Change Warriors. We have a website, we have a YouTube channel, and we hope that you'll check us out. You can read about our goal, our mission, and our vision on our webpage. And I am going to bring our panel up for you and get them on the screen so you can meet them. And we're going to talk about the 38,000 veterans who are experiencing homelessness in America. So I'm going to bring up Raphael Frederick. First of all, I almost said your old last name, and let you introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, yes, I'm Raphael Frederick. I am currently in the process of developing Buyer Site Services LLC, which is focusing on assisting veterans, elderly, and disabled people mentally and physically.
Where are you calling in from today, Raphael?
Oh, Virginia.
Great, thank you. Raphael and I met about 4 years ago when I was a field instructor with the Sischke Group, an intern program for the USC Master's Program. Do you want to introduce your friend that you brought in tonight for our discussion, Raphael?
Yes, this is Jordan Fox. He graduated from USC. Go ahead, Jordan.
All right, thank you. My name is Jordan Fox, and I graduated from USC, where I received my MSW. Currently, I work with veterans at the Vet Center. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I am calling in from Michigan.
Great, thank you so much. Great to have both of you. Andrea and I go way back to the Sischke Group as well. Andrea was actually my field instructor when I was completing my master's at USC. So we've known each other since 2015, Andrea. It's hard to believe.
Yeah, thanks, Kat. So I'm calling in from the Oregon coast. I'm retired Air Force. I currently work at Job Corps with students. I'm a drug and alcohol counselor and a guidance counselor, but I do a lot of volunteer work with veterans. So I'm well versed in the needs of veterans.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for everything you do out there in Oregon. And it's so great to have you and see you again. Robert, also a comrade of USC, and I was Robert's field instructor. I was pretty lucky to be the field instructor for both of these fine men. And Robert, want to let us know where you're calling in from and tell us a little bit about you?
Absolutely. I'm Robert Sands. I'm calling in from the Panhandle, Eastern Panhandle, West Virginia. I am an employee of the VA. I was at the vet center for about 2 years working with vets there, and then I moved from there, and now I'm an addiction counselor here at the hospital in Martinsburg, West Virginia, and I'm about to leave here in about another 30 days to be the veteran crisis hotline responder. So
Wow.
I'm moving around the VA. So I have
That's
pretty
fantastic.
with him right now.
Yes, I know last time we talked, I think you were still doing counseling with couples and family counseling, right?
Yes, I was. And now I'm doing addiction therapy and moving from that, like I said, to the VCL. And I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a whole new challenge for me.
Good. Well, they're lucky to have you, Robert.
Thank you.
Right, everyone. We're just going to kind of jump right in here. We have a deck that we created today as an accompaniment so that we can just kind of move along and have our talking points and let you know the things we found out in our research. So as we've told you, there are currently approximately, I believe the number was 37,700, but it obviously varies from day to day. So roughly 38,000 currently homeless vets in America. And we wanted to let you see the map here. This is interesting because we have a good representation. We've got Andrea out in Oregon at the 1,329 mark. I'm in Florida at the 2,436. We've got Robert up here in West Virginia, 104. Raphael, you are in, where are you right now? You've been moving around too.
Virginia.
You're in Virginia. Yeah. Okay. You're at 395. We've got 639 in Michigan. And then out here in California, where we all went to grad school, we've got the big number, 11,401. So that's where it all breaks down right now. That's where pretty much your 38,000 are across the country at this time. So what is going on with the current state is that there is this really interesting count that they do called the point in time. And this is how they can get us that map and tell us where we're at within a pretty good, idea of the numbers being very closely, accurate. So I know, Jordan, you wanted to share a little bit about some of the work you've done with the point in time count.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I started working at the vet center and even before I worked at the VA, I worked for a community action that participated in the PIC count. And it's a really good tool. Sometimes it doesn't capture the total population that is literally homeless because it takes place over maybe a day or a couple of days, depending on where you're located. I did do some research, and that number with Michigan seems to be pretty close. Where I'm located in Michigan, the number of homeless veterans is a lot less, and that's just due to demographics. For a reference, I looked at the PIC count in LA County, and it was almost 4,000 homeless veterans in LA County. Just to reference, there's just over 3,000 veterans in the county that I live in, and so it's a lot smaller, but very effective. And the PIC count is very important. It's used to determine funding and HUD vouchers, and a good tool that can be tweaked and improved upon.
Great. Thank you so much for that information. Anybody else in the room have an experience with the PIC count at all?
I've helped with it when we've had our stand down. And so we've interviewed homeless veterans and helped count for the county that way.
Okay, great. So this is once a year, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So once a year we get this idea of where we're at. Okay, thank you guys so much for sharing that information with us. So let's take a look back here. So in 2010, we were at 76,329 approximately, based on that PIT count, that were living in emergency shelters or transitional housing or in unsheltered places. So that would mean on the streets or in cars. So during the 12-month period from 2009 to 2010, this is what your numbers were looking like. 144,842 were at least one night in an emergency shelter or transitional housing. That was 11.5% of all homeless adults back during that time. So that was 1 in 150 veterans, and about 1 in 9 veterans that were still living in poverty at that point. So when this happened, there was a big initiative to make a difference and to try to get the homeless vets into housing, transitional housing. And they basically said the 2 ingredients that were associated with their success was the housing first and the investments in veteran-specific programs. So HUD program, they adopted the Housing First strategies in 2012, and their approach was very welcomed. It seemed to be proven very effective based on the research that they've been able to do since that time. So it was definitely a very successful program. And it was so successful that it reduced waiting times from 223 days down to 35 days. I mean, that's monumental. That is a huge, I mean, you could save someone's life when you think about it. Someone that's ill and that is in the streets, maybe they're not eating, not sleeping, maybe they need medication that they're not getting. So that is a huge number that they were able to move during that time frame. Anybody in the room want to address this at all or speak to this?
Well, I'll say one thing. The VA is working very hard with several entities, both government and non-governmental, to ensure that they get the attention that veterans need a lot faster. And that started with a couple presidents ago that they initiated this effort. And like I said, they're working extremely hard to make a difference there. So, going from almost a year to roughly 30 days, it's showing you how much work they're putting in, how much effort they're putting in there to make sure that veterans are taken care of. And that's not just homelessness. That's across the board. That's with medical care, right, with counseling. That's with any type of surgeries. I mean, they're employing people, and they're looking for the best talent. They're not, wasting money or time to ensure that. And like Andrea, I am a retired veteran as well. So I understand. I get my treatment there. So I understand the importance of getting the proper care and immediate care to take care of just me. And I'm looking at my situation, and I see vets all day long, like Justin. We're dealing with them constantly. This is not a one-time stop shop. It's a constant visit. And, they're going out into the streets. They're knocking on people's doors. They're sending them emails. They're making phone calls. They're sending them letters. I mean, to the point, honestly, sometimes it's so much that you're like, good God, I just got this letter. You just sent this to me. I'm fine. Okay. And I've had veterans do that. And you can testify to that. Hey, I'm good. You called me last week. Okay. So the VA as a whole is very, very active to make a difference. They're not cutting any ties with this.
That's really good to hear, Robert. And I also know that I read back too on the research a couple presidents ago was heavily involved in the administration of getting working together with the VA and setting precedent for programs, passing policy. One of the biggest things was that I read what they feel it was so instrumental in this is that it was across the aisle. Everybody was agreeing for once on something, not to go down the political road, but the more you can work across the aisle, guess who benefits the most from that? We do.
Right.
The people that voted for them, right? So the people that need the help, we are the ones that end up getting the most benefit when the politicians work across the aisle. So they were very instrumental in that and passing legislation that was helpful, and more grants were instilled during that 2010 to 2016 session. Raphael, you had something that you found that was very interesting. Do you want to speak to to this group a little bit about what you found about the if you suspect that a veteran is homeless?
Yes, I was reading if I suspected someone was homeless and I suspected that they were a veteran, all I had to do is provide them the description of the homeless person and the location about where they were located. And I was wondering, how does that work? I found that when I was researching for this topic.
Has anybody heard of that or know of or can speak to that, or that is possible? We'll have to table that for our second session that we're going to have in 8 weeks.
Yeah, I actually did a little bit of research about that as well, Raphael, and I was looking at larger cities and how the veteran homeless population was so great. And then I looked at my own city and I thought, man, the population here is so much smaller and the homeless veteran numbers are so much smaller. And there is a hotline that the VA has come out and provided that you can call and provide that description. But what good is that? We can get a hold of the federal government and they have all these problems set for us. But what I really started to notice in my community is that we have such a tight-knit group of veteran advocates and a coalition for veterans where it starts from the federal level, trickles down to the state, local, but even your neighbor. So when somebody identifies a veteran, my community takes almost a no wrong door approach to addressing their problems. And if I see somebody that is homeless, I can call this number. My local VA has 3 employees that work in the homeless program. Sure, 3 employees probably cannot cover Los Angeles, but 3 employees can cover the 3,000 veterans that are working in my jurisdiction. So I think it's a fantastic concept. It's, do we have the resources and manpower to respond to every person that identifies as a veteran or we feel as a veteran? And that can become a problem that I see. And kind of like the mission of this organization, what good is an idea if you don't put action into it? And I would like to see that expanded after doing a little bit of research.
Yeah, Kat, I just wanted to add to that as well. I would suggest that, just like Jordan said, it starts in the local community. Our local veteran service officer, he is aware of pretty much all of the homeless vets in our area, and he's either reached out to them and tried to connect them with resources or, give them tools. So, and especially with the veteran organizations too in our community. So just like I would just echo what Jordan said about it starts right here at home.
Yeah, great. And it's really good to hear that, they have a handle on it and that they're doing really, it sounds like they're just doing the best they can, but not having enough numbers to find people who, when you're out there in the streets, you can hide. There's a lot of places that you can hide yourself and you can't be found. So that's a problem too. Go ahead, Raphael.
Another thing that I was wondering that was popped in my mind is that if the individual presents with a mental health issue at the time, do they take care of that individual at the time of initial meeting, or do they give them like a card and say, go here? So I don't know if anyone could answer that. And that question is open to anybody.
Have any of you heard about? Yeah, go ahead, Robert.
It's not that they give them a card or anything. If I were a homeless veteran, and using myself just as an example, if I was a homeless veteran and one of you all came that worked for the VA or worked with one of the organizations that work with the VA, and you was trying to give me help as far as the mental health side and the homeless side, they're going to address the immediate need first. What is the immediate need? What is it's a triage basis. It's going to be treated as a triage.
Yeah.
What is that?
Triage, yep.
And some may say it is the homelessness, despite the severe mental health or substance abuse. Or it could be the substance abuse is the main problem. So you may have several entities within the VA that's going to attack that. The biggest challenge is getting that veteran to commit to get the help. The help is there. Okay, and that point needs to be driven home. The help is there. The challenge is
Right.
that veteran to come in there and say help, and
Yeah.
that becomes a major struggle because they'll need the help and they will say, well, I want this, but I don't want to do all the other stuff. Okay, and that's
Right.
become a challenge. Uh,
Oh, we lost you for a second, Robert. I'm just going to go over here to our deck and hopefully we'll get Robert back here in a minute.
Yeah, I was just going to say what Robert, usually some veterans don't get the help that they need until they're unfortunately arrested or there's some situation,
Right.
with court or something like that. That's the point of time when they when they start getting the resources that they need.
Right. And Andrew, you probably remember when I was with the Sischke group, when you were my field instructor for my internship, I spent a little less than a month working on Skid Row in Los Angeles. And I talked with and met with a lot of folks that were there for various reasons. Some had lost their jobs. Some had gone through domestic violence and had to get out of the house. I met veterans who couldn't work because of their disability and did not really understand. Some of their disabilities were so profound with mental health that they didn't really know how to ask for help, but they managed to find their way to this area of Los Angeles known as Skid Row, which they have done a fantastic job down there with having crossover services. They can bring in social workers, but like Robert was saying, and like you're saying, if the person doesn't want to stay, if they decide at some point, I just want to go back out into the streets and fend for myself because I don't like being told what to do and I don't like the rules here. It's very hard to deal with that at times because you can't take away someone's agency. They have agency to do and be where they want to be. And some of them have experienced such bad trauma in some of the homeless shelters by others around them at times that they are afraid to actually go into a shelter. Robert, do we have you back? Looks like he's trying to come back into the room. So this is the other program that I wanted to talk with you guys about and let you know about, the Supportive Services for Veterans Families, the SSVF. They joined the efforts as well back in I think it was late 2011, 2012. And they offer the rapid rehousing, and it's been very helpful to stabilize and get people moving out of transition into permanent. Because what can happen a lot when you work with just the regular homeless population that are non-veterans, we can get homeless into transition housing, which I saw happening a lot, moving them off of the Skid Row area and into a transition. But then they get there and then there's issues, there's problems, there's overcrowding for permanent housing. Then we don't have enough room in transitional housing, and then everything gets backed up. So this program did a good job though of moving the vets into permanent housing and prevention services. Jordan, have you been familiar with this program?
Yeah, I actually worked for SSVF for a little bit here in Michigan, and this is really one of the coolest things that I've seen where federal and state and local programs work together. So SSVF can help with rapid rehousing and assisting in rent or maybe that security deposit, and hopefully partnering with the VA and the HUD-VASH program where we can pay for rent, and hopefully these veterans are able to apply for and get some sort of housing assistance. And when the two work together, it's a beautiful thing. And not only just SSVF, but when you think of housing, so we can house somebody, we can put a roof over their head, but what more do they need? They do need medical care. They do need a bed to sleep on. They do need a coffee table, and that expands to our very local Salvation Armies, our Goodwills, our other partners that can help and assist homeless veterans. And really cool program. I enjoyed my time with that. I eventually ended up going to school and got my master's, so I moved on from that. But it's very effective and a great program to be partnering with the VA.
Thanks so much for sharing that with us. Go ahead, Raphael.
I do. So, okay, now we discuss what they do if they have an individual or an apartment. Is the way different when we're discussing a veteran that could say they're in the process of losing their home, or is that a whole different type of animal that that program does not touch?
Sure. So I'm not sure how the program is today. I do remember when I was working in that program, there was a veteran that I can think of that was actually living in an apartment that was not handicap accessible, and he needed to have an apartment that he could access and be able to function and live in. And I want to say it's something called rapid rehousing. So we identified that there is a need, that this apartment is not adequate for this veteran and their disability. And we were able to use some funding along with assistance from other organizations to get them into a ground level apartment. So yes, and each place probably has different guidelines and there's income guidelines, but I would imagine that is a possibility depending on area.
If I could just follow up on what Jordan was saying about partnerships. So where I'm at, I'm in a rural area, and the VA facility in Portland is 4 hours away. Salem's 2 hours, so we don't have a lot of VA services out here except for our CBOC, right down the road. But we have found a lot of success with partnerships with, say, Habitat for Humanity, like Justin said, Goodwill, Salvation Army. We have Operation Restore Hope, which has Brian's House. And these are all supported by, a lot of the veteran organizations, AMVETS, VFW, Legion, stuff like that. And so sometimes you just got to take it into your own hands and to get things done. And, that's what a lot of rural areas do. Not to discount what the VA services provide, but.
Right. No, partnerships is huge. Andrea, thanks so much for bringing that up. I actually, in kind of some final research today, I found that there was a organization just north of me in St. Augustine, which is only about 50 miles from here, and they have a housing program. There's also one over in Brevard County, which is to the west of me, and it's quite a large program. So I'm going to see if I can pull in some people from both those programs when we have our next session in about 8 weeks, and have them tell us a little bit about what they're doing and their success stories in Florida. So that would be great. Thanks so much for bringing up the partners. So just let's move on here to our next topic that we put together for you in our research. So now we're at a situation where we had the 76,000 that we talked about, and we had these programs going on, working together. We had the government involved. We had the politics involved, where they were working together across the aisle and creating legislation and policies. Now we have a stall. So we've been at this kind of 38,000 mark roughly since 2016. It sort of declined in 2016 and it continued to go down. And then we kind of just stayed here, stagnant now at the 38,000. So what we're going to talk about when we meet again in 8 weeks is what caused this stall. So we're going to be inviting some staff members from the VA, department heads, hopefully, to come in and talk to us about what they felt might have caused the stall. But I know, Jordan, you have some suspicions that you wanted to share with us.
Well, I'd made a little joke earlier. I used to work for the SSVF program, and that was from about 2014 to 16. And it looks like that's when maybe it became a little more apparent that we were stuck at this number of 38,000. But yeah, I think when we look at the veteran homeless population, it's not one individual's problem. It is all the way from the federal level to the actual veteran. And we need to be able to have kind of this no wrong door. If somebody presents, I have a problem, all right, let's work to fix this. Kind of, Raphael made a comment where, do they walk in and you just give them a card? That's not very effective when they are in a housing crisis. They might not have food. So you take somebody and they don't have a roof over their head, or their stomach is growling, and you say, hey, call this person. Well, dude, I'm homeless. I don't even have a phone. How do you expect me to do all of these things? Yeah. And that needs to be the focus, is that it's not just one agency or person's responsibility. Like Andrea said, local organizations, service officers, if everybody could come together and work as a team. In my community, we have something called a Veterans Community Action Team, where you take all of these service organizations, service officer, VA employees, state employees, and we literally come together like a discussion and say, hey, these are some of the problems happening in our areas. How can we address them? How can we fix them? How can we use local fundraisers? How can we use federal dollars to work on this problem?
Great. Thank you so much for sharing all that, Jordan. That's really insightful. Do a little research about the timing of this stagnant situation. I do want to look into and see what policies might have been either discontinued or rolled back since we did change administration. It'll be interesting to see if there was anything there that might point in that direction. It'll also be interesting to hear from the VA themselves as to what their thoughts are as to why we have this great downward trend for all those years, and then suddenly we just leveled off. So I hope you'll all join us in 8 weeks when we get together again to talk about a little more in depth about what happened with the kind of the stagnant situation that we're in and how we got here. So what happened then is the VA said, you know what, we got to do something. So they made a vow in April that they were going to house these 38,000 plus approximately veterans within the next year. And they did this by launching a program called the Permanent Housing Placement National Challenge. And we're going to get into that a little more in depth in 8 weeks when we invite some VA staff members to join us and talk to us about this plan. But so far, it involves the 2 prior programs. It's involving partnerships. It has to do with legislation, similar to what happened, when they got the numbers to go down in 2010 to 2016. And the other program that I wanted to highlight is the Healthcare for Homeless Veterans program. And this program serves as kind of a collection of housing and other services, kind of similar to what you guys were just all talking about, how important it is for all the services and all the agencies that want to provide help to homeless veterans to work together as a team. So outreach is core for them. So their goal is to reduce the homelessness, obviously, by conducting outreach to find out where the vulnerable are, what do they need for services, the triage like Robert was speaking to and you were all speaking to a little earlier. And then the contract residential treatment program, which now we get into the mental health component, like you were talking about, Raphael, how important that is it's just not about housing. It's about medication, doctor's visits, counseling, if we're dealing with PTSD in a lot of cases here. And then what about what's in the house and how are they going to get food? And can they work? Can some of them be retrained? And are there training programs? So does anybody want to go ahead and chime in and speak to this program that seems to be very beneficial?
I don't know enough about it, Kat, so I'll defer to somebody.
Has anybody heard of this? I'm just curious because, this was a big media push when they put this out that they were going to rehouse these 38,000 veterans. I'm just curious, you guys work in social work and Robert, I don't know if you can still hear us or not, but I think I think he's still in the room.
I think you have to make him a presenter, Kat, so he can come back on camera.
Did he try to come back in?
Yeah, he's an invitee. So I would say the VA does set very ambitious goals and doesn't always, maybe think through how that's going to be implemented. But, just my own experience.
Yeah. Right. Robert, well, I'm sorry I didn't see you. We were trying to get back in. I thought I'd already given you presenter rights, so sorry for the delay on that. So we want to get you back in the room so you can comment on the two most recent slides that we had up. Jordan, do you have anything to add about that program? Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I guess I'm not too familiar with that specifically. I do know that there is a homeless program, and I'm sure that they are incorporating some of these things, especially if it's a VA national initiative. And it makes sense. And
Right.
I truly feel that some of these things may be already being done in my community. Kind of like I said, if we do identify somebody, that referral happens, I mean, instantly in most cases. Hey, we got this
Right.
person living out in the woods. How can you help them? And then that gets the ball rolling with the homeless program.
Good. Well, we're going to learn more about that because when we invite our VA special guest to the room here in 8 weeks, we're going to learn more about this program. And what I'm interested to know is where are they, if they haven't any idea where they're at, because obviously the pit wouldn't be done right now, but I would really like to know where they're at, where they think they're at right now, what progress they've made since the challenge came out in April. So Jordan, you had talked a little bit earlier about numbers. So I thought you must have been reading my mind, so I thought it would be important that we put these numbers up for now in case anyone in our audience knows a homeless vet or has dealt with one in their community, has tried to help them or have, get them off the streets. Here's your numbers for the National Call Center for Homeless Veterans and also the Veterans Crisis Line. So hopefully you can take advantage of those numbers if you know someone in your neighborhood or community that would be able that could use help immediately. So I'll just put it back out there to the group. Anything else that you want to make a comment on or chat about before we close out today? I'm excited to be able to bring you all back in here in 8 weeks with your guests that you've been able to find for me at the VAs in your areas so that we can dig into this even a little bit deeper. Any final comments, Raphael?
Just real quickly, if one of you or all of you, what would you give a social worker who is looking to work with veterans some advice?
Lots of patience.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Robert, we can hear you.
Yes,
Oh,
we can
good.
hear you, Robert.
Again, I don't know what button to push here. I'm so sorry. Okay. I'm not going to try to rehash everything, but I'm going to go with what Raphael just asked. I agree. Patience. I mimic that. I echo that. Patience. Give them the time and listen to their story. A lot of them want you to hear their story. And that starts with that. Show true, genuine interest about their story. You don't have to like it. You're probably not going to like it, but listen to their story.
Thank you. Jordan?
Yeah, I think I would just say trust goes a long way.
Yeah, definitely. And it is hard to build trust at times too when you've been through so much. And so I want to say in closing, thank you all for your service so much to our country. Thank you just doesn't seem like enough when I've heard from those of you that have served what you went through when you were in the military, and we've talked personally about it. And my grandfather was a vet, World War II vet, and I got to hear a lot about his experiences. So it's something that's hard for me to even fathom what you endured at times. And so thank you so much. And also to our homeless veterans, I pray and just hope that you find the peace that you so deserve. And most importantly, that we can help you find housing by sharing these stories and by sharing the word about the programs and getting these numbers out into our communities. Thank you to everyone in the communities who helps your homeless veterans in any way that you can. Thank you so much. And we are going to get back together in 8 weeks and do part 2 and get a little bit deeper dive into where we are standing right now with this pledge that the VA made to rehome these veterans that are currently out there in your states. And it was great to have you guys here today. Thank you so much for joining Social Change Warriors, Social Changers. We'll be back next week with another topic. Last week, we met with Betty and Dr. Renee Campbell. They talked about Behind the Myth, being a Black woman in America. And you can check that out on our YouTube channel and also on our webpage. If you have any questions, we have a contact form on our webpage. If you are interested in having us present or train your organization, please reach out to us. And I hope you all have a very safe 4th of July weekend. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye, everyone. And I'm going to stop the recording.